Thanksgiving used to be loud in my family, forced laughter, forced smiles, plates clinking, pretending everything was normal. That night was different from the moment I stepped into my parents' house. Something felt wrong, not dramatic, not obvious. Just a quiet pressure in my chest like the air itself was waiting. I sat at the far end of the dining table, my coat still on because I felt like a guest, not a daughter not. That anyone noticed my sister Ashley sat across from me, perfect hair, perfect sweater. Phone always in her hand, she did not look at me even once my parents moved around the table, pretending to be cheerful too. Cheerful like people trying too hard to convince themselves. And at the head of the table sat my grandmother Dorothy. She had been overseas for years, boardrooms, contracts, long phone calls. I never got to hear one. She told us she was finally coming home. My parents acted excited, but there was something nervous underneath it now. She sat straight backed eyes, sharp, taking everything. In my worn shoes, my tired face, the way I hesitated before eating. We were halfway through dessert when she spoke. Mandy, answer me something. Her voice was calm, but the room went silent. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. My heart started pounding. She continued, why is there an elderly couple living in the lakeside house I bought for youth? The words did not make sense. I stared at her, certain I had misunderstood, certain this was a mistake. A sharp sound broke the silence. My father dropped his knife onto his plate. I swallowed. Grandma, what did you just say? She looked at me patiently. The lakeside vacation house, the one I bought for you 3 years ago. My chest tightened. Grandma, I think something is wrong. I do not own any house. I do not even have an apartment. Right now, my mother inhaled sharply. I continued, my voice shaking. I was evicted last month. I've been staying with friends. Sometimes. Sleeping in my car. My grandmother frowned. That is impossible. She leaned forward. I went to the house myself. You were not there. Instead, an elderly couple answered the door. She turned her head slowly. They said they were the parents of Ashley's husband. Room felt smaller. Ashley explained. I turned toward my sister. Her hand was shaking around her glass, her face pale, eyes darting. Grandma, she said quickly, just got back from overseas. You must be exhausted. Maybe you went to the wrong address. My mother jumped in immediately. Yes, jet lag can confuse memories. Let's not ruin Thanksgiving. Be quiet. My grandmother's voice cut through the room. I know exactly which house I bought, and I know whose name was on the deed. She reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph, then slid it across the table. It stopped in front of Memmy's stomach, dropped. The photo showed a beautiful lakeside mansion, and standing in front of it, smiling, were Ashley, her husband Kevin, and his parents. That house was purchased in Mandy's name. My grandmother said. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly. Mom, Dad, what does this mean? No one answered. I have $12 in my bank account. I said, if there is a house in my name, why am I living like this? My father cleared his throat. Well, it's complicated. No, it is not. My grandmother said. She turned to me. Mandy, you really do not know anything, do you? I shook my head. I've never heard of any house. Something like pity crossed her face. Then it disappeared. She looked at my parents. You told me Mandy was mentally unstable, that she could not manage money, that you would act as her guardians. My heart slammed. What I whispered. My mother touched my arm, not gently, but warningly. Mandy, calm down. See, this is what we mean. I pulled away. Do not you dare. I stood fully. I worked 3 jobs. I graduated at the top of my class. When I could not pay rent, you told me to work harder, and all this time you gave my house to Ashley. My father slammed his hand on the table. We did it for the family. Ashley laughed, a sharp, ugly laugh. A boring woman like he does not deserve a house like that, she said. We're just using it properly. Something inside me broke enough. My grandmother stood. She walked over and placed her hand on my shoulder. All of you are rotten, she said. Mom, that is too far. My father protested. There is no family here, only thieves. She pulled out her phone. Come in now. The door opened. A man stepped inside carrying a briefcase. Mrs. Hanson, I brought everything. My father staggered back. What is this? My grandmother looked at him coldly. We are going to review every lie, every forged document. One by one I wiped my tears and lifted my head. This was not the end. This was the beginning. The man with the briefcase introduced himself as Mr. Collins. He was my grandmother's attorney. He placed the briefcase on the table and opened it slowly. Sound felt loud in the silent room. Inside were folders, thick, heavy, organized years of them. My grandmother gestured for everyone to sit. No one argued. Mr. Collins pulled out the first document. This is the deed to the lakeside property purchase 3 years ago, and the name of Mandy Hanson. My legs felt weak. I sat down. Slowly, Ashley shook her head. This is insane. You cannot just walk in and accuse us. Mr. Collins looked at her calmly. Actually, we can. He slid another document forward. Power of attorney papers signed by Mandy Hanson. I stared at the signature. It was my name, but not my handwriting. My chest burned. I never signed this. I know, my grandmother said, because you were overseas when it was filed. My mother spoke quickly. She was unstable. Then she asked us to help her. That is a lie, said my grandmother. Nodded. We know Mr. Collins continued. These documents were notarized by a private notary, one who has since lost his license. My father's face drained of color. We also have bank records. Mr. Collins said every payment from the property, rent, income, maintenance, fees, utilities, all redirected into an account under Ashley's control. Ashley stood up. You have no idea how hard my life was, she screamed. She always had potential. Everyone always praised Harry. Had to take care of myself by stealing my life, I said quietly. My grandmother stood again. Enough. She looked directly at my parents. You destroyed one daughter to favor another. My mother burst into tears. We were trying to protect the family from whom my grandmother asked from the truth. Mr. Collins closed the folder. This evidence has already been submitted to the district attorney, to the property court, and to the bank fraud division. My father whispered one last week. My grandmother said. The room felt like it was tilting. You let this go on for years, I asked her. She met my eyes. I trusted them. That ends now. Ashley sank into her chair, her confidence gone. You cannot do this to us, my mother said. Watch Memmy, grandmother replied. She turned to me. Mandy, pack your things. You will come stay with me. Shook my head. No, everyone looked at me. Need to face this, I said. I have been running my whole life. My grandmother smiled slightly. Then we do it properly. She leaned down and whispered, they will answer for everything. I believed her. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Too fast for them to hide. Within days, letters arrived. Banks, courts, government offices, all asking questions. No one wanted to answer. Ashley stopped calling. My parents called nonstop. I did not answer. I moved into my grandmother's guest room, not as a child being rescued, but as someone regrouping. Every morning, Mr. Collins arrived with updates, accounts, frozen properties, flagged credit histories, reviewed. Each update felt unreal. My grandmother sat beside me, every time calm, steady, like someone who had seen storms before. They tried to blame you. She told me one morning, they said, you were unstable, irresponsible, difficult. I laughed softly. The same words they used my whole life. She looked at me with sadness. They needed you to be broken so no one would question why you had nothing. Ashley was the first to be questioned. She went in confidence. She came out shaking. She told them she thought the house was a gift, that you were too weak to manage it, that she was saving it for you, saving it by renting it out, by living there, by collecting every dollar. The investigators were not kind then. They questioned my parents. The stories did not match. Dates changed, memories shifted, truth cracked. One afternoon, my mother showed up unannounced, standing on my grandmother's porch, eyes swollen, voice desperate. Please talk to us, she begged. I stepped outside, but I did not hug her. Why did you let me believe I was worthless, I asked. She cried harder. We thought you would fail anyway. Those words ended something forever. Weeks passed, court dates were scheduled, charges filed, fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. The words sounded heavy, but they fit. Ashley tried once more. She sent a message. You always ruin everything. If you drop this, we can fix ID. Did not reply. Because some things are not broken, they are exposed, and exposure changes everything. Because some things are not broken, some things are not broken, they are exposed, and exposure changes everything. Paper felt heavy in my hands, not because of its weight, but because of what it meant. I stared at the top line. My name printed in formal letters. For a moment, my mind refused to believe it. Last will and testament of Dorothy Hanson. My grandmother sat in her chair, steady and calm, her eyes sharp. She had always been in control, but now she was anchoring the storm. Mandy, everything you have endured, she said softly, never should have happened. I will not allow it to happen again. Mr. Collins cleared his throat, began reading the revised will. All inheritance rights previously assigned to George Hanson, Sandra Hanson, and Ashley Thompson, including any spousal extensions, are revoked. All assets, real estate holdings, investment portfolios, liquid accounts, business interests are hereby designated to Mandy Hanson as sole heir, sole heir. The words echoed in my head. I had spent years Surviving counting hours, work counting. Dollars earned, counting nights. I slept on borrowed couches now. The life I had dreamed of, the house I never touched, the money I never saw was. Finally, "My Mandy, are you all right?" my grandmother asked quietly. I swallowed. "I do not know how to feel," I said. "Do not even know what this means." "It means," she said, "that no one will ever cage you again." The room fell silent. Then the door banged 3 hard knocks. Front door flew open. Kevin, my brother-in-law, stood there, hair disheveled, eyes wide as parents behind him, looking confused. "What is going on?" he shouted. "Why are there police cars outside?" I stiffened. Ashley had never told him the truth. "You must be Kevin," my grandmother said calmly. "And you are?" he replied. "We are family." He tried to smile. "You would not really family." I said, "It's not a free pass." His smile disappeared. "Mr. Collins slid documents toward him. Rental payments, $5,000 a month paid to Ashley Thompson for a property she did not own." Kevin looked pale. "You charged your own parents," he whispered. I nodded. Deputies entered. Ashley screamed. "No, I did not do anything wrong." Her cries echoed in the room. But Kevin and his parents had no choice. They had to leave. The house went quiet again. My grandmother said that was unavoidable. I sank into the chair. The adrenaline, fatal leaving exhaustion deep in my bones. Mr. Collins reminded me legal proceedings will take months, criminal charges, civil suits, asset recovery. I nodded. This was real. This was happening, and it was not stopping. That night, I stood alone on the lakeside deck, the water dark and still reflecting the stars. My phone buzzed. No number, a single text. "You think this is over. You have no idea what you started." My blood ran cold, but I did not reply. I locked the phone. The house stood silent behind me. The water did not move, and soon someone would learn. They had underestimated me. The war had just begun. I did not reply to the text, not because I was afraid, but because fear had finally learned its place. I stared at the glowing screen until it dimmed, then locked my phone and slid it face down onto the windowsill outside. The streetlights cast long, empty shadows across the pavement. The police cars were gone. The neighbors' houses were dark. The world looked the same as that morning, but my life had split cleanly in two. Before the truth, after the truth. Behind me, the house creaked softly as it settled. My grandmother and Mr. Collins were still in the study, voices low, methodical, discussing timelines, filings, motions, language of consequences. I let it wash over me. Without listening too closely, for years, my existence had been chaos disguised as normalcy. Now, for the first time, the chaos belonged to them. The first court notice arrived 3 days later, certified mail, heavy envelope, my name typed neatly on the front. Like it finally belonged to something important. State of New York versus Ashley Thompson et al. Sat at the kitchen table of my grandmother's house, fingers tracing the seal, heart pounding, not with fear but with electric anticipation. Mr. Collins sat across from me, glasses perched low on his nose. "This is a criminal case," he said calmly. "Forgery, fraud, financial abuse. State is pressing charges independently of civil action, and my parents." I asked. He nodded. "Co-conspirators, accessory charges, financial misconduct." I exhaled slowly. Some small, wounded part of me had been waiting for someone to say, "This is too much." No one did. Good. Civil cases followed quickly. Asset recovery, restitution, damages. Every document peeled back another layer of rot. They had not just stolen the house, they had taken out lines of credit in my name, used my SSN to open accounts, redirected mail, filed false medical affidavits claiming I suffered from episodes. I laughed out loud, a sharp, humorless sound that startled even me. "You okay?" my grandmother asked. I am furious, but not surprised. I said. She nodded. "That is how you know you are healing." Ashley tried calling me from jail. I let it go to voicemail, then again and again. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. Answered Mandy. She sobbed immediately. "Please, you don't understand how bad it is here." I said nothing. "They're treating me like a criminal," she continued hysterically. "I cannot sleep. I cannot eat. I did not think it would go this far." I closed my eyes. "You forged my life," I said quietly, "and you were surprised it had consequences." I paused. They were silent. "You always think you're better than me," she said, small and venomous. "No," I said, "I just stopped letting you stand on my throat." I hung up. My parents' attorney reached out next. Requested a meeting to explore reconciliation. Mr. Collins scoffed. "They are desperate," he said. "Assets, frozen accounts flagged. Their house is already under lien. Do I have to meet them?" I asked no, he said, but they are hoping you will soften. I thought of my mother's voice telling me to work harder while siphoning my paychecks, my father's emails poisoning my career. I will not. I said, Mr. Collins nodded. Once good, Kevin filed for divorce 2 weeks later, not because he grew a conscience, but because his parents had threatened legal action of their own against Ashley, against him, against anyone who benefited from the lie. Lakeside House was vacated on schedule. I did not go with the locksmith. When they changed the lock, some things needed distance before they could be touched. The threats escalated quietly. Anonymous emails, letters without return addresses, messages from burner numbers warning me to be careful, Mr. Collins forwarded everything to the detective. This is intimidation, he said. It strengthens your case. I should have been scared. Instead, I felt clear for the first time. I was not guessing what was happening behind my back. They were afraid. The preliminary hearing was set for early spring. I attended. Ashley sat at the defense table, thinner eyes, sunken hair pulled back. She did not look at many. Parents sat behind her, no longer confident, no longer loud. They did not look at me. They did not need to. The judge read the charges: forgery, fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, financial exploitation. Each word landed like a brick. Ashley, attorney, argued ignorance, coercion, family misunderstanding. The judge did not look impressed when it was my turn to speak. I stood, my legs shook, but my voice did not lose 3 years because I was weak. I said I lost them because the people I trusted built a cage and called it love. My mother started crying. I did not look at her that night. I finally went to the Lakeside House alone. The place was quiet, empty, cleaned too carefully, like someone trying to erase their fingerprints. I walked through every room slowly. Kitchen where Ashley cooked dinners. I was never invited to the living room where they took family photos, the bedroom that should have been mine. I stepped out onto the deck. The lake stretched out before me, dark and still, reflecting the stars like it was holding secrets. I breathed in deeply. This was not just a house. It was proof that my suffering was not imaginary, that my instincts were right, that the voice telling me something was off had been telling the truth all along. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. New message. Trials can be unpredictable. People get tired. People make deals. Think carefully about what you really want. I stared at the words. Then I typed a reply. I want the truth on record. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. I locked the phone and slipped it into my pocket. Behind me, the house stood silent ahead of me. The water did not move, and somewhere very soon, someone was going to realize they had underestimated me. The trial was intense. 12 days of testimony, 12 days of my life, being dissected by strangers in black robes. 12 days of watching the people who raised me pretend they did not know the damage they caused. I did not look at my parents. I did not look at Ashley. They wanted me to break, to cry, to beg, to forgive, but I had stopped needing their permission on the stand. I told the truth. I told them about sleeping in my car, working 3 jobs, living hand to mouth, believing I was the problem. Then I told them about discovering the house, the letters destroyed, the emails sent to ruin my career, and how all of it had been deliberate. I spoke calmly, clearly, without fear. The prosecutor asked questions, simple at first, then sharp, then cutting. I answered every question, every lie, every fabrication. Ashley contradicted herself. She blamed Mish, blamed my parents. She tried to claim she was saving the house for me. It did not work. My father tried to sound reasonable. He failed. Emails were presented, the timestamps, the IP addresses, the proof of deliberate sabotage. My mother collapsed. She tried to explain. No one listened. The verdict came on a Thursday afternoon. Ashley Thompson guilty on all counts. George Hansen guilty. Sandra Hansen guilty. Sentences were handed down. Restitution, ordered assets, seized criminal records filed. They did not look at me when the gavel came down. They did not need to. 6 months later, I stood on the deck of Lakeside Manor. The house was finally mine. The lake, dark and still, the water reflecting the sky like glass. Ashley was imprisoned, divorced, bankrupt. Parents and Kevin cut off from the house. My parents stripped of access and credibility. Was free. I rebuilt my life slowly, carefully, on my own terms. I started a business helping others who had been financially abused, consulting online support, teaching people how to protect themselves from the lies families sometimes hide behind. The response was overwhelming. My schedule booked months in advance, income multiplied. I Depended on no one weekends were for my grandmother. We sat by the fireplace, talked quietly, laughed softly, as if reclaiming the years that were stolen from us one. Evening, I looked out over the lake. You didn't just reclaim the future that was taken from you, she said. You built an even brighter one. I nodded, feeling the truth of her words, feeling the peace I had waited for. This is my home, I whispered, the place I protect, the place I love. And for the first time in my life, I was not surviving, I was living.